Tropical storm Debby has moved off the eastern seaboard of the United States and is causing a lot of heavy rainfall and gusty winds. Good evening, I'm Mike Naso with this late night Tuesday video update on the tropics. In case you don't know where Tropical Storm Debby is on this radar map of the lower 48 United States, it's the thing with the hole in it off the South Carolina coastline right here. This donut, this fat donut, is Tropical Storm Debby spinning there about 36 hours after making landfall as a Category 1 hurricane in the Big Bend area of Florida. A lot of heavy rainfall as the system interacts here with this front off the eastern seaboard, which has caused it to slow down, and that's why we have that flood risk. Here's the latest on Tropical Storm Debby as of 11 p.m. Eastern Time from the National Hurricane Center in Miami, Florida. Debby was at 31.8 north, 80.2 west, and winds are about 40 miles per hour and is moving east at 5, drifting east. It's about 50 miles east-southeast of Savannah, Georgia, and that also puts it about 70 miles south-southwest of Charleston. However, that's a moot point at this juncture because the system is so big that we already have tropical storm force winds and rainfall impacts well away from the center. The forecast does have Debby meandering here throughout Wednesday and then coming ashore very late Wednesday or early Thursday morning in South Carolina, and then eventually we'll finally get Debby out of here as it slides to the northeast over areas of the mid-Atlantic, especially North Carolina, Virginia, even into areas of Maryland, drawing with it some heavy tropical rains and moisture. We do have a tropical storm warning in effect from the mouth of the Savannah River all the way up to Surf City, North Carolina. And that's because of the threat of tropical storm force winds. Looking at this map, the wind field is impacting South Carolina right now. So it's been very, very gusty, very choppy, very high swells. I wouldn't go out in the water anywhere from the mid-Atlantic down to Florida in the next 24 to 48 hours, especially with the threat of big waves and rip currents. Very, very dangerous. Here's the satellite imagery, and Debby, watch how it barely moves out of Georgia, and then it drifts right offshore there. And again, it did suck in a lot of dry air when it interacted with this front, and that helped us out in one regard. This could be a much more moist storm. How can I say this? Debby could be more moist. Wait, no, this sounds weird. Okay. There could be a lot more moisture. This should be on the blooper reel, but I'm just going to leave it. I'm sorry, folks. Debby should have a lot more moisture, or it could have a lot more moisture than it does. And part of the reason it doesn't is because of that dry air. So, we still have that prolific flood threat, the rainfall, but I was worried, as were others, could this be another Allison, 2001? It was a tropical storm hit Texas and just drenched along the south coast all the way up the east coast. Could this be another Hurricane Harvey, Cat 4 into Texas, but then it stalled out and dumped historic rainfall? We were concerned that Debby was going to stop and just dump historic rainfall. It's dumping a lot of rain, and there is a lot of flooding, but I don't think it's quite as bad, knock on wood, as it could be at this point. But nevertheless, we're going to have to continue to watch it because it's not done yet. Now, where exactly Debby comes ashore, the direct landfall as of the 11 p.m. advisory looks like it's going to be in South Carolina, Bull Island. Bull Island might be the direct landfall point, but again, we're not dealing with a tightly coiled major hurricane. We're dealing with a very broad, ill-defined tropical storm, so the impacts will be all over this area with the wind field on this thing taking up a good portion of the South Carolina coastline, even all the way down Wilmington, Southport, Carolina Beach, Sunset Beach. You guys are going to get in on the action as well. Storm surge could be a problem, especially near and to the right of where the center comes ashore. So, again, if the center makes landfall there in South Carolina, on the right side you'll have onshore flow 1 to 3 feet from Cape Lookout to Cape Fear, and then 2 to 4 feet in this little concave here between Cape Fear and South Santee River. And that's 2 to 4 feet of storm surge with waves on top, so it's a pretty nasty time in the Carolinas. The rainfall, again, like I said, it could have been even higher, but we're still looking at 4, 6, 8, 12 inches of rain, especially from Charleston to Wilmington, all the way up to Raleigh and Charlotte. And that's going to spread northeastward as Debby eventually moves up and out over the mid-Atlantic, you could be looking at high rainfall in Pennsylvania and even up into New England as time goes on. That will increase the flood threat, obviously, high here in South Carolina and North Carolina, but a higher moderate flood risk up here, even into areas of Pennsylvania and into upstate New York. Tornadoes are a threat with any landfalling tropical cyclone. There's the radar. Right now it looks kind of skimpy. I'll show you another radar view in just a second. But it looks like the threat of tornadoes will extend all the way into North Carolina, and any one of these rain bands around Debby can spin something up. So you want to be very, very careful. People often forget that whenever you have a landfalling hurricane or a tropical storm, any kind of tropical cyclone, you have the threat of severe weather and tornadoes. In fact, Hurricane Beryl, when it hit Texas back in July, there were a lot of tornadoes in the southern United States after Beryl came ashore. So the key messages for Tropical Storm Debby: potentially historic heavy rainfall across portions of eastern South Carolina through Friday. We could have areas of catastrophic flooding, and there will be considerable flooding impacts from upstate South Carolina, western North Carolina, southwest Virginia, through the mid-Atlantic, western northern New York, and northern New England all the way into Saturday. So it's a wash this weekend. If you were going to go sightseeing from Cape Fear to Cape Cod, you're going to get rained out by Debby. Sorry. Number 2, tropical storm conditions will spread northward along the southeast coast from South Carolina to North Carolina through Thursday. Tropical storm warnings are in effect, as mentioned. And also, I mentioned that dangerous storm surge is possible along the South Carolina coast and southeastern North Carolina from South Santee River to Cape Fear. Residents in that area should follow any advice given by local officials. Dr. Philip Klotzbach of Colorado State University, he is the top forecaster when it comes to hurricane prediction. Every year they put out a couple of forecasts. This year it is going to be very, very active. We have 21 names on the name list because they don't use certain letters like Q and U. So 21 names, and they're expecting 23 storms. We might exhaust the name list. Now that includes Alberto, Beryl, Chris, and Debby, but that means we are still expecting 19 tropical storms through the rest of this hurricane season. 12 hurricanes, which means Beryl and Debby were 2 of them. That's 10 hurricanes. And 6 major hurricanes. Beryl was a major hurricane, so 5. So as of now, Dr. Phil Klotzbach at Colorado State thinks we are going to have 19 more tropical storms, 10 more hurricanes, and 5 Category 3, 4, or 5 major hurricanes. And that is going to be a very active year. This is as of August 6th. So just think what's to come. And I know some people are like, you don't know that. What if it's not that bad? Trust me. We've already had 4 tropical storms. 2 of them became hurricanes, Beryl and Debby. One of them was a monster major hurricane, Beryl, devastated the Caribbean. And 2 of them, Beryl and Debby, made landfall in the United States. I saw somebody today on X was talking about, maybe the pattern will keep hurricanes away from the United States this year. Guess what? Even if they did, we already got hit. Texas and Florida had a hurricane landfall, Beryl and Debby. And Debby's not done yet. So there's a look at it. Again, it's spinning off the South Carolina coastline. It should strengthen very slowly, maybe get back up to 50 miles per hour. So it's not really the wind impact as much as the heavy rainfall threat, and like I said, the threat for severe weather. So we're going to continue to watch Tropical Storm Debby, a one-time hurricane that made landfall near Steinhatchee, Florida, early Monday morning. As we head into Wednesday, we'll watch it progress towards South Carolina. I'm Mike Nasel with the latest on Debby, and I'll talk to you next time.